Having a professional relationship with the media is meaningful, and the human element plays a part in this. Some of you may remember the 2002 All-Star Game in Milwaukee, played at Miller Park. One of my more unpleasant memories, I may add. We'd been eager to showcase Milwaukee's new ballpark to the entire sports world, and I really looked forward to it. I was the commissioner already, but here we're coming back to my hometown. And so, of course, what ended up happening was a very unfortunate situation. I'm going to editorialize a little bit. The managers burned through the pitching staffs. Now, let me tell you, while I think about it, I'll digress for a minute. Joe Torre, who today works for me, but I knew as a 15-year-old kid when his brother Frank played for the Braves. In fact, he stayed with me for a summer. And I said to my wife in the 7th inning, he brought Barry Zito in to pitch to one hitter, and I said to her, I hope Joe knows what the hell he's doing. Well, I've told him this, he won't be mad. Well, obviously, neither he or Bob Brenly knew what they were doing, but that's a whole other story. There were consequences to giving everyone an opportunity to pitch in the All-Star game, and I know that they felt that way. They wanted to get everybody in. That doesn't happen anymore, by the way. When the game remained tied after 11 innings, neither team had anyone left to pitch. In 73 All-Star games, this was the first time that had happened. Well, what's the solution to a problem like that? And I want to make this point to you. The criticism in the aftermath was brutal. Really, you would have thought I had robbed a bank or committed some unpardonable sin, and I told a bunch of writers the next day, whatever else you might, I'm going to get to that in a minute, they came being very friendly. We did not influence or change the course of Western civilization. You may think we did. I knew it would be unpleasant, but I didn't think it would be that unpleasant. One thing I do have is a good memory, so I don't forget who was unpleasant. The following day, as people were in an uproar, a group of longtime baseball writers who really had covered me already for a long time and were really friends of mine in a lot of ways, came to my office and told me they understood this was a freak situation. They wanted me to know that I wasn't alone. And they all wrote it, I have to say that. Now, when they walked in, what I said to them is, don't worry, guys, it's bad, but I'm not jumping out the window, so you don't have to worry. Well, these are writers that had been around the game for decades as I had, and they knew that we had no option but to end the game. They cared enough to let me know there were voices out there that may have been loud, but it didn't mean they were right. This was a sign of professional respect, and their gesture had meant a lot to me. And I guess what I would say to you relative to things that happen, especially when you have a job like mine and many others, it's okay to be critical, but you ought to have a solution. We had no pitchers left. The last pitcher was Freddie Garcia, and Joe was very worried that Lou Piniella, I can still remember him saying, he said, Lou's going to be mad at me. And at that point, I said, I don't give a damn if Lou's mad or not. But he said he can't pitch anymore. The umpire came over and said, both guys are really struggling. And, of course, the crowd was chanting, let him play. Well, they were chanting, well, I won't get into that. But anyway, and but in the end, when asked, well, what would you have done if you were me? And outside of a few, and I'm going to say this, I don't mean to be unkind to you, but there's always a little sarcasm. Outside of a couple talk show hosts who had no solution other than you should have let them play. Well, you can't turn the All-Star game into a farce. You can't have a shortstop come in and try to pitch and maybe get hurt. Remember, we do have a responsibility for players' health. So I'm always willing, and I say this to people, there's issues we can agree and disagree on. I understand that. The only thing I've ever asked of a writer is, come and talk to me, hear my side of it. Once you've heard my side, do what you want. I often disagree with what's written. Oh, there are a lot of writers gotten a lot of calls over the years, including one yesterday afternoon, and about the important decisions I make. But I'm always willing to have a discussion, provide our perspective on why we feel or how we feel we acted. There is a tendency to pay more attention to negative stories And it takes satisfaction in the many positive stories. Perhaps that says something about human nature, but keeping everything in perspective is important. So that was a perfect instance of overreaction. It died pretty quickly. There are still some people wherever I go say, how could you let that game end in a tie? And then I remind Tori of that quite often, so at least he now works for me, so I can bang him. And when I saw Brindley in Arizona last week, he went like this, "No, I know."